My wife is a flight attendant. One time, I happened to be on a flight she was working. Thought it'd be a fun surprise. But somewhere mid-flight, I went to use the restroom near the front of the cabin. That's when I heard something I can't exactly describe, not without turning red. Sounds that didn't belong in an airplane bathroom. Not in any bathroom, really. I froze. A moment later, the door opened, and out walked Ashley. My wife. Right behind her was the tall Russian man from earlier, adjusting his cufflinks like nothing happened. That was the moment everything shifted. That was the moment I realized, there was a secret on this flight, one I wasn't supposed to uncover. My wife, Ashley, is a flight attendant. She's got one of those faces that turns heads, elegant, striking. Standing at 5'8" with a body straight out of a fitness magazine, she's the kind of woman who makes even strangers look twice. We've known each other for 5 years, been married for 3. But if I were to count the days we actually spent as husband and wife, just the two of us, I wouldn't even need all my fingers. Ashley says she loves the feeling of being up in the sky. That weightlessness, that freedom. So after we got married, I gave her space. She kept flying. We really only saw each other on her 2 days off each week, those brief, borrowed windows of something like normal. That week, my company sent me abroad on short notice to inspect a project. By pure coincidence, or maybe fate, I booked a ticket on the exact flight Ashley was working. It felt like a small gift from the universe. Of course, the company only covered economy. But I had other plans. Quietly, I paid for an upgrade to first class. I didn't tell Ashley. I wanted it to be a surprise. At the airport, I slipped on a baseball cap and a mask, going full undercover. I figured it'd be fun to catch her off guard, see her reaction when she realized her husband was on board. The moment I stepped onto the plane, I spotted her. Even among a line of polished, poised flight attendants, Ashley stood out. She had that glow, that poise that made it impossible to look at anyone else. She smiled, professional but still soft, and led me to my seat. I kept my head down, staying in character. What struck me as odd, though, was how empty the first-class cabin was. Besides me, there were only 3 other passengers, a tall Russian guy and 2 Europeans. All of them had iced Americanos in front of them. Not something you usually see pre-takeoff. "Sir, would you like something to drink?" Ashley asked, her tone smooth and distant, the kind she used with strangers. I lowered my voice, trying not to tip her off. "Yeah," I said, almost whispering. "I'll have an iced Americano too." But for some reason, I could tell, Ashley looked genuinely pleased to see me. "Please hold on a moment, I'll be right back," she said with a strange brightness in her voice. There were 3 flight attendants working first class. Aside from Ashley, the other 2 were just as attractive, each with that polished, airbrushed kind of beauty that seemed custom-fit for luxury air travel. I had just slipped off my shoes, settling into the seat, when suddenly, someone stumbled right into me. Instinctively, I reached out and caught her. A soft, slender body collapsed into my chest. One of Ashley's co-workers. I helped her up quickly. "Are you okay?" I asked. "Thank you, sir. I must have tripped on my own." "Is there anything else I can get for you?" she said, a bit flustered. "No, I'm good. Thanks." But my attention had already shifted, back to Ashley. She walked toward me with that signature sway in her hips, balancing a glass of iced Americano on a tray. But something in her eyes had changed. There was a sharpness there. A flicker of anger. Shit. Did she recognize me? But then I noticed, it wasn't me she was glaring at. It was her colleague. "Evelyn," Ashley said calmly. "You better be careful. If you make another mistake, I'll move you to economy class." "I'm sorry, Purser, please don't do this," Evelyn stammered, her face pale. "Purser?" Wait, Ashley had that much authority? I sat there, stunned. I had no idea Ashley was the lead flight attendant. "Then I suggest you ask this gentleman for his forgiveness," Ashley said, turning toward me. Her tone was clipped, commanding. Then she handed the iced Americano to Evelyn. Blushing furiously, Evelyn bent down in a half-squat, eyes avoiding mine as she held out the glass with both hands. "Sir, would you be willing to forgive me?" she asked softly. "It's no big deal." "Of course I forgive you," I replied, doing my best to play it cool. I took the coffee and drank a large gulp, mostly to cover my nerves. Then I leaned back and closed my eyes, pretending to rest. Evelyn let out a quiet sigh of relief and followed closely behind Ashley, like a junior trailing a boss. It wasn't until after takeoff that I realized. This iced Americano meant more than just coffee. This flight will be approximately 10 hours. We're expected to arrive at our destination around 8 p.m. Ashley's voice came through the cabin speakers, calm and professional as ever. Almost as soon as the announcement ended, the two European men stood up in unison. Another flight attendant promptly approached them. "Gentlemen, this way to the restroom, please." Roughly 30 minutes later, the Russian man rose from his seat. This time, it was Ashley who walked over, smiling politely. "Sir, this way to the restroom." Something felt off. Sure, people get up to use the restroom on long flights, but it struck me as odd that they were being escorted, almost like appointments, not casual trips. Most planes only have 2 lavatories at the front. Were there more on this flight? But then 15 minutes passed. Not a single one of them came back. Now I was getting suspicious. What, did they all eat the same bad shrimp cocktail before boarding? Was there some kind of synchronized stomach bug? Just then, Evelyn appeared again, crouching slightly beside me like before. "Sir, please allow me to escort you to the restroom." I'm actually good for now," I replied, blinking in confusion. Then curiosity got the better of me. "Hey, how many restrooms are there on this plane?" Evelyn's cheeks flushed. 6 in total. 4 in first class. The other 2 are in the back. 6. That many? I must have looked surprised. Guess that's what I get for rarely flying international business class. This level of service was a whole new world. Half an hour later, the 2 European men finally returned to their seats. And I swear, they looked satisfied. Relaxed in a way that went beyond your average bathroom break. I couldn't help but roll my eyes. What kind of weirdos did I just board a plane with? Around then, I started feeling the urge to pee myself. As I stood up, Evelyn was already at my side again, like she'd been watching for it. "Sir, this way to the restroom." I had to admit, this first-class service really was something else. I let out a small, polite laugh and followed Evelyn down the aisle toward the restroom. Just as I reached for the handle, a sound stopped me cold. A sound that didn't belong in any airplane restroom. Moaning sound. My hand froze mid-air. What the hell? Was someone seriously doing that in there? My jaw tightened. I turned on the faucet at the side panel, pretending to wash my hands while my ears strained to make sense of what I was hearing. Then, the door swung open. Out walked the Russian man, adjusting his pants, wearing the smug grin of someone who just had a little too much fun at 30,000 feet. "Great service," he said in a thick accent, nodding toward someone behind him. "I'll be requesting you again next time." "Thank you, sir," came the soft, familiar reply. I turned my head in disbelief. Ashley. My wife. She stepped out right behind him, beads of sweat still clinging to her forehead. Her makeup was slightly smeared, her blouse crumpled and untucked. The black stockings she'd been wearing earlier were gone. And yet, she carried herself like nothing was out of the ordinary. Without even glancing at me, she snapped at Evelyn, who was standing silently behind me. "What are you doing just standing there? Are you really going to make the guest wait?" Evelyn flinched like she'd been slapped. She grabbed my arm and practically dragged me into the restroom. "Sir," she said, voice trembling, I'm still learning. Maybe you could take the lead this time." I barely heard her. My mind was spinning, stuck in some hellish loop of denial and realization. She stepped closer. "If you'd like, I can. I can help you with your belt," she murmured, reaching for my waist. That snapped me out of it. I jerked back and shoved her hands away. "This is what you call service?" I hissed. Evelyn's face drained of color. She dropped to her knees, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm sorry, sir, I didn't mean to upset you." I cut her off. "I'm not angry at you. Just, tell me the truth. What kind of service is this?" She looked up at me, her eyes full of fear, and something else. Pity, maybe. "Sir," she said carefully, you did order an iced Americano, didn't you?" My stomach dropped. "What does that mean?" I asked slowly. She hesitated. An iced Americano means, full, unrestricted service from a flight attendant. For the entire flight. My ears rang. The last shred of denial I'd been clinging to shattered. My chest tightened. Breathing suddenly felt like a chore. Without another word, I turned and reached for the door. I needed to get out of there, before the walls closed in. Evelyn clung to me, desperation written all over her face. "Sir, please help me," she whispered. "If you leave now, the purser will think I failed to please the passengers. She will definitely downgrade me to economy class. I beg you, just let me serve you this time. Please." I turned around and looked her straight in the eyes, cold and steady. "You know this is illegal, right? What you're doing, it's a crime." Before she could respond, there was a sharp knock on the door. Then Ashley's voice floated in, calm and authoritative. "Sir, Evelyn is still in training. Would you like me to come in and guide her through the process?" "No," I said firmly. "I'm not interested." It took a long moment, but eventually, I heard Ashley's heels clicking away down the aisle. Evelyn looked up at me like I'd just handed her a lifeline. "Thank you, sir, but please, just this once. If I don't do something, I won't be able to explain it to her. And if you don't want to be reported," I cut in, lowering my voice, "you'll do exactly what I say. Got it?" She blinked, stunned, as I reached into the pocket stitched on the front of her blouse, pulled out a pen, and lifted her hand. I scribbled a phone number across her palm. "I don't do anything at 30,000 feet, I said. "If you really want to talk, call me after we land." And with that, I opened the door and walked out. Back at my seat, I could feel the judgment. A few passengers looked at me like they already had me figured out. The kind of glances that carried whispers without sound, sleazy, pathetic, complicit. I ignored them all. My eyes found Ashley, sitting primly across the aisle, sipping water like nothing had happened. Calm. Composed. The perfect professional. But I couldn't stop asking myself. Why? Why would she do this behind my back? I'm not broke. I'm not absent. I've got a net worth in the millions. She's never had to want for anything. After we married, I let her keep flying because she said it made her feel free. I didn't question it. I trusted her. I never imagined this was the job she insisted on coming back to. My chest tightened with a bitter mix of betrayal, confusion, and disbelief. Nothing made sense anymore. Divorcing Ashley now would cost me everything. Half my assets, gone. And worse, I'd become the punchline of every joke. That poor guy whose wife played him in the skies. Thoughts swirled endlessly in my head. On a plane like this, it was nearly impossible to collect solid evidence. No cameras in first-class lavatories. No witnesses willing to speak. And if Ashley got even a hint that I suspected something, she'd shut it all down. Go silent. Cover her tracks. Then I'd never find the truth. No, I needed someone on the inside. Evelyn, she is perfect. Scared, obedient, desperate to prove herself. She could be the leverage I needed. Now all I have to do is make sure I'm not discovered during this period. By the time the captain announced our descent, it was already past 8 p.m. The cabin lights dimmed. We were preparing to land. I opened my eyes slowly. On the outside, I was calm. But under that stillness boiled a rage I could barely contain. 10 hours. 10 miserable hours. And in that time, Ashley had disappeared with those men 4 times. Once, she went with all 3 of them at once. I didn't even want to imagine what went on behind that locked door. But I saw the aftermath. Ashley, barely able to walk, leaning heavily against Evelyn for support as she returned to the cabin. Whatever love I had for her, it was gone. All that remained was a deep, gnawing disgust. And hatred. After landing, I made my way out of the terminal. I stood at the curb, waiting for my ride, trying to disappear into the crowd. Then I heard her voice. "Babe? What are you doing here?" My body went rigid. She'd spotted me? I turned around quickly, scrambling to come up with some excuse. But she wasn't talking to me. Ashley ran straight past, into the arms of the tall Russian man from the flight. She threw herself at him, clinging to his neck like a teenage girl with a crush. Then, in full view of everyone, she kissed him. Open-mouthed. Hungry. "Babe, I've been on my feet for 10 hours. My legs are killing me. Will you carry me to the car?" She looked so tiny wrapped around him, this man who stood at least 6'5". He grinned, clearly enjoying the show, and scooped her up effortlessly. They climbed into a black SUV parked along the curb. And through the tinted window, I could see his hand sliding under her blouse like it was nothing. Like this was just how they said hello. I stood there, numb, watching the woman I once loved, the woman I once trusted, become a stranger before my eyes. The same woman I had once considered the greatest treasure of my life. What a joke. If it hadn't been for this flight, I probably would have gone to my grave never knowing just how efficient Ashley really was, with her time, and with her secrets. A husband waiting for her back home. A Russian lover abroad. And in between? She kept herself busy mid-air, entertaining strangers at 30,000 feet. How much more was I missing? My breath started to quicken, my chest tightening from the weight of it all. Then, out of nowhere, a cold bottle of water appeared in front of me. Here, drink something, Evelyn said softly, tugging a small suitcase behind her. She glanced in the direction Ashley had disappeared and added, Ashley doesn't meet clients on the ground. Only on the plane. If you were hoping for more, I wouldn't count on it. I narrowed my eyes. How do you know I was watching her? Evelyn gave a half-smile, sly and knowing. You haven't taken your eyes off her since boarding. And besides, almost every man who orders an iced Americano in first class on this route? They're here for Ashley. She's gorgeous. Knows exactly what she's doing. Sweet voice, soft touch, she's the kind of woman most men dream about. I took a deep breath. Then, almost without thinking, I threw my arm around Evelyn's shoulder. Where's the nearest hotel? The moment we stepped into the hotel room, Evelyn slipped behind me and wrapped her arms around my waist. I didn't hesitate, I turned and kissed her back. We stumbled to the bed, clothes falling in a trail behind us. The room buzzed with heat and tension. But just as things reached their peak, I stopped. Evelyn blinked, stunned, staring at me like I'd just spoken in code. Wait, what's wrong? She asked breathlessly. I tilted her chin up with a teasing smirk. I want you to do something for me. Desire had clouded her eyes. She nodded quickly, eager, ready to say yes to anything. Anything you want tonight, she whispered. No, I said calmly. You misunderstood. I mean starting tonight, and for the next month, you work for me. As I spoke, my hand moved slowly across her skin, keeping her suspended in that place between tension and surrender. When it's done, I'll pay you $1 million. Her breath hitched. Her body arched slightly in response. Okay. I'll do it, she moaned. Whatever it is, I'll do it. I smiled, pleased with the answer. Then I leaned in, lips almost brushing her ear. I want you to watch Ashley. Every move. Every man. And if you can get me video proof of her with someone else, I'll give you another $500,000. Evelyn was silent for a moment. Then her voice came out low and smoky. You still can't let her go, can you? Her assumption hit too close to the truth. I had a dozen excuses ready to explain my real motives. But none of them mattered. Only the result did. After everything, I created a burner account and added Evelyn on her social media. I messaged her directly. I'll reach out when I need you. Just remember what you promised me. She stepped out of the bathroom, wrapped in a towel, still drying her hair. Don't worry. I said I'd keep an eye on Ashley, and I meant it. I pulled out my phone and transferred 20 grand to her account. If you are exposed, our cooperation will end. Evelyn shot me a look, then climbed back on top of me with a smirk. I'm not an idiot. You think I'd get caught doing something this delicate? Then tell me something, I said, eyes locking with hers. Why do you even do this? I thought flight attendants made pretty good money. That shut her up. Her smile faded, and she stared off into the distance, silent. I pressed again, softer this time. What is it? Something you can't talk about? She turned back to me and shook her head. I'm sorry, sir. I can't tell you. And then she added, voice low and tight. If I did, it wouldn't just put me in danger. It could drag you down too. I didn't ask any further questions. But her words stuck with me. What kind of secret could be so big, so dangerous, that even hinting at it could burn everyone involved? What kind of system was this? The next day, I wrapped up my business meetings. Just as I stepped out of a conference call, Ashley's name popped up on my screen. I let it ring twice before answering. Scott, did you miss me? She cooed. Of course, I said smoothly, walking to the window and lighting a cigarette. How are things over there? She gave a soft, lazy sigh. Exhausting. You know how I get, can't sleep right without your arms around me. Still playing the perfect wife. She really knew how to push the right buttons. Well, you take care of yourself, I said, letting my voice dip a little. I've got a surprise waiting for you. She laughed lightly, said a few sweet nothings, then hung up with some flimsy excuse about another call. I crushed the cigarette in the ashtray, pulled out my phone, and booked a ticket, same flight, same destination. First class again. But this time, no hat. No mask. No disguise. Let her see me. Let her feel the shift in power. I wondered what her face would look like when she spotted me at the gate. Would it be fear? Shock? Anger? Maybe she'd try to play it cool. Or maybe she'd lose it and demand I change cabins. But what I never expected, what I couldn't have predicted at all, was how she actually reacted when we finally came face to face. The next day, I handed my boarding pass to Ashley. She took it without hesitation, her face the perfect picture of professional courtesy. "Welcome aboard, sir. First class is this way," she said with a polite smile, like I was just another passenger. Like we'd never shared a bed. A life. I followed her down the aisle, unsettled by her calm. At my seat, she bent down, fastened my seatbelt with practiced ease, then returned with a pair of slippers and gently helped me switch out of my shoes. Everything was exactly like the last time. Every movement, every word, eerily familiar. But where was the fear? Where was the panic? She should have at least flinched. Should have felt something. "Sir, I hope you enjoy your flight," she said smoothly, turning to walk away. I reached out and grabbed her arm. She stopped, turned slightly, her expression unchanging. "Is there anything else I can help you with, sir?" Her face was so familiar, and yet in that moment, she looked like a stranger. I leaned back, holding her gaze. "I'll take an iced Americano." I didn't blink. I studied every twitch in her face, every flicker of her eyes, searching for a crack in the mask. Nothing. Just the same flawless, mechanical smile. "Of course, sir. I'll bring it right away." She turned and walked off, heels clicking against the carpet, and I sat there, hollowed out. It wasn't regret. It wasn't longing. It was something colder, like I had been erased first. Like she had beaten me to it. I was the one who discovered the truth. She was the one who cheated. So why did it feel like she'd already made peace with it? Why did she get to act like nothing ever happened? My hand curled into a fist. Moments later, Evelyn returned, a tray in hand. "Your iced Americano, sir," she said, lowering it toward me. "Tell her to bring it," I snapped. She paused. "Sir? You heard me. I want her to deliver it." Evelyn hesitated, then nodded and turned away. She knew what I meant. Last night, she'd told me the rule, the unspoken code. Whoever brings the iced Americano, offers the service. And today, I wanted Ashley. Not for her body. For her guilt. For her to finally face what she did. To look me in the eye, and realize I wasn't going to disappear quietly. Evelyn crouched down beside me, speaking in a low, patient voice. "Sir, the chief purser attendant is very busy today. It's just a cup of coffee, who delivers it doesn't really matter." "It matters," I snapped, my voice sharp. Too sharp. Heads turned. A few passengers glanced over from their seats, brows raised. Ashley noticed immediately. She approached with graceful, measured steps, the perfect embodiment of calm professionalism. "Sir," she said with a gentle smile, "I'll have to ask you not to disturb the other guests." Then she reached out, took the iced Americano from Evelyn's tray, and handed it to me directly. "Here's your iced Americano. Please enjoy." But this time, just for a split second, I saw it, something flash in her eyes. Smugness. Satisfaction. Like she just won a game I didn't know we were playing. Why? Why did she look victorious? The question echoed in my head as the engines roared to life and the plane began to taxi. As soon as we were airborne, I stood up. And just as I expected, Ashley appeared beside me without missing a beat. "Sir, this way to the restroom." I followed her down the narrow aisle. She stopped at the familiar door, turned, and opened it. Then looked at me. "Sir? Aren't you going in?" I stood there, unmoving, staring straight into her eyes. Something felt off. I frowned. "What, you're not coming in with me?" Ashley blinked, caught off guard for half a second. Then she gave a soft laugh. "Sir, you must be joking. That's a private space. We don't provide that kind of service." Her tone was breezy. My heart dropped. My pupils narrowed. What the hell was going on? This was exactly like last time. Same flight. Same cabin. Same coffee. But none of it was the same. And then it hit me. Last time, there were foreign passengers. The Russian. The Europeans. Everyone had ordered iced Americanos. This time, there were only Americans on the plane. And I was the only one who asked for it. I froze, realization sinking like a stone. I'd blown my cover. I wasn't playing the game anymore, I'd walked right into a trap with a flashing neon sign over my head. Ashley had known. She'd known the whole time. I took a deep breath. Then another. It was time to stop pretending. Time to lay everything on the table. Ashley, I said, my voice low but shaking, why are you doing this? She tilted her head slightly, eyes wide, innocent. I'm not sure what you mean. I stared at her. First class. Iced Americano. What is it, really? Ashley blinked, her expression unreadable. Those are standard things on any flight. What exactly are you accusing me of? Then she narrowed her eyes, the innocence vanishing in an instant. Scott, is this the surprise you mentioned? Following me? No, You're unbelievable, she cut in sharply. Immature. Dishonest. You go on and on about giving me freedom, and then you sneak onto my flight to spy on me? I can't even begin to tell you how disappointed I am. She spun on her heel, ready to walk away. But I grabbed her wrist and pressed her back against the wall. Ashley, I'm not done talking. She shoved me hard, her tone icy. Scott, I'm warning you. I'm at work. Don't make a scene and don't interfere with my job. Then she turned and walked away, back into the cabin with the grace of someone who had nothing to hide, and nothing to lose. I stood there for what felt like forever, my heart pounding, fury boiling under my skin. The cool, calculated way she flipped the narrative, turned me into the villain, as if I were the one who crossed a line. I couldn't take it anymore. I walked to the sink, turned on the tap, and shoved my head under the stream of ice-cold water. It roared against my ears, numbing everything, the rage, the confusion, the ache in my chest. Only when I could barely breathe did I finally shut it off. I gripped the sides of the sink, water dripping from my face, lungs burning. That's when I heard a voice behind me. Didn't expect you to be Ashley's husband. I grabbed the towel in front of me and ran it through my dripping hair. As I looked up, my eyes locked onto Evelyn's reflection in the mirror behind me. You betrayed me? She shook her head. No. You just picked the wrong flight. What does that mean? I asked, voice low and tense. She took a step closer and began to explain. Only certain international airlines offered the kind of service I'd discovered. The kind where iced Americanos meant more than caffeine. But today's flight? It wasn't one of those. It was a domestic carrier, entirely different rules, different structure. And worst of all, first-class passenger information is fully available to the crew, she said quietly. I went cold. That meant from the very first flight, Ashley knew. She knew I was on board. Was this all some kind of twisted performance? A setup? No wonder she hadn't flinched. No wonder she was so calm. She'd planned this, prepared for it. And I had walked straight into it like an amateur. Just as I turned to leave, Evelyn stepped forward and tapped me gently on the cheek. Don't worry, she said. I gave you my word. I'll still get you what you need. I nodded slightly, then made my way back to my seat, my thoughts racing. How was I supposed to face Ashley now? Without proof, I couldn't force a divorce. And Ashley? Ashley was too smart to leave a trail. The plane landed. We exited the terminal one after the other. No words exchanged. A car waited curbside, ours. We got in. Still nothing. The silence was heavier than any argument. When we got home, Ashley slipped off her heels and tossed them carelessly by the door. She walked straight to the wine cabinet and pulled out 2 bottles of red. Drink with me, she asked, already twisting the corkscrew. I didn't say a word. Didn't nod. Didn't shake my head. Just sat down. Ashley didn't wait for a response, she poured and handed me a glass. Then poured one for herself. She didn't drink much, usually. But tonight? She kept refilling her glass, clinking it against mine, urging me to drink faster. She laughed too loud, talked too fast, like she was trying to drown something before it could surface. By the time I realized I was tipsy, Ashley was already drunk. She leaned against me, her words slurred and eyes glassy. Scott, don't trust Evelyn. Don't trust anyone. What do you mean? I asked, heart skipping. But before she could answer, she was out cold, breathing softly, completely passed out. I must have dozed off not long after. When I woke up, the sun was up, and Ashley was gone. All that remained was a single sheet of paper on the table. The divorce agreement. Signed. She'd waived all claims to our marital assets. No alimony, no settlement. Nothing. I stared at the signature in disbelief. No fight. No bargaining. No threats. Just, a clean break. Why? Why so easily? None of this made sense. My mind spun as I reached for my phone and called her. Voicemail. Phone off. I tried Evelyn next. She answered almost immediately. Hello? Where's Ashley? I demanded. A pause. Mr. Scott. Ashley's your wife, not mine. It's our day off. How would I know where she is? Get over here. Now. I ended the call before she could respond and folded the agreement carefully, tucking it away. Ashley's last words echoed in my head like a riddle I couldn't solve. Don't trust Evelyn. Don't trust anyone. What the hell was she trying to warn me about? 3 cigarettes later, Evelyn showed up. This time, she didn't look like a nervous flight attendant. She looked like she was dressed for a party, micro mini skirt, tight camisole, heels clicking down my hallway like she owned it. You said you wanted to know where Ashley went, she said, dropping her purse on the counter. I just got off the phone with someone at the company. She picked up an extra shift, she's on an international route. Which flight? I stood up immediately, all hesitation gone. I didn't care if she wanted to disappear. I needed to see her. To finish this properly. Face to face. An hour later, I was on another plane, Evelyn at my side. The moment we landed, I started calling Ashley non-stop. Still nothing. Just that same cold, automated voice, the number you're calling is currently unavailable. Had she blocked me? I tried calling from Evelyn's phone. Same result. Suddenly, Evelyn's phone lit up. She answered, and her expression changed instantly. The color drained from her face as she glanced at me, hesitating. What is it? I asked, my voice sharper than I meant. Is it Ashley? Did something happen? She bit her lip, struggling to speak. Then finally. Yes. But. Scott, Ashley had an incident on the plane. She's at the hospital. They're trying to save her. By the time we reached the hospital, it was already too late. Ashley was gone. What I saw wasn't my wife, just her body under a white sheet, and a death certificate in a cold plastic sleeve. In the span of a single night, she had vanished from my world forever. My mind couldn't catch up. Her face, always vibrant, playful, maddening and magnetic, flickered through my thoughts like an old film reel. How could it end like this? Why now? Why today? A doctor pulled me aside. His face was grave as he delivered the news. Ashley died from internal hemorrhaging caused by severe trauma. His words rang in my ears, but didn't land. Then Evelyn returned from speaking to the nurses, her face pale, jaw clenched. She was with 8 passengers, she said quietly. All at once. By the time they landed. She didn't need to finish. I stared at her, hollow, my hands trembling at my sides. This should have brought relief. Ashley had betrayed me. Lied to me. And now, legally, she was no longer my wife. There was a large insurance policy in place. I stood to receive all of it. So why did I feel nothing but grief? No satisfaction. No justice. No peace. Only a gnawing ache that pressed deeper by the hour. After the funeral, after the guests had left, I returned home alone. The apartment was too quiet. The kind of silence that swallows you whole. Grief turned to rage. Then back to grief. I lay down, thinking maybe I could finally rest. But every time I closed my eyes, Ashley's face was there, flashing in front of me, smiling, crying, taunting. Until it wasn't sadness anymore. It was suffocating. And I couldn't breathe. I got up and walked straight to the safe. Carefully, I placed the signed divorce agreement inside. But as I was about to close it, something else caught my eye. The life insurance policy. Ashley's. She bought insurance for herself a few months ago. We'd argued about it at the time, I'd thought it was unnecessary, even paranoid. But she'd insisted. You never know what can happen in the air, she'd said. And she'd named me as the sole beneficiary. Looking at it now, it didn't feel like paranoia. It felt like planning. Premeditation. Like she knew. And if she knew, then someone else knew too. That was the moment I made up my mind. Ashley wasn't going to die for nothing. I quit my job. Sold off everything, stocks, the house, the cars. I took the payout from the insurance and poured it into one thing. I hired a team of private investigators. Told them to dig into the airline. Everyone Ashley ever worked with. No one was off limits. It took 3 months. 3 exhausting, obsessive months. But finally, I found something. Silence that felt too coordinated. I began to suspect these flight attendants weren't just complicit, they were coerced. This wasn't freelance misconduct. This was a system. I needed more. Real proof. So I contacted Evelyn. And once again, I boarded the same route, same airline, same seat in first class. I kept my head down as I settled in. Iced Americano, I said softly. There was a pause. Then a familiar voice replied. Right away, sir. My head shot up. Evelyn. She wasn't supposed to be on this flight. How? She leaned in close, lips barely parting as she whispered. I came just for you, Mr. Scott. Then she turned, hips swaying, and returned a moment later with a cup balanced neatly on a tray. Your iced Americano. I looked up and met her eyes. And there it was, that glimmer. That flicker of something smug. Secretive. Thanks, I said evenly. She smiled. See you soon. Then turned and walked down the aisle toward a new passenger, a tall Russian man in a designer coat. Just as she passed a younger flight attendant I didn't recognize, the girl hesitated and stepped toward her. Lead attendant, the gentleman in row 1 asked for an iced Americano. Should I? Her voice was unsure. Nervous. She wasn't in any of the personnel files we'd pulled. Had to be new. Evelyn just laughed softly. No worries, she said, waving it off. You go get him a pair of slippers instead. Then she pointed, straight at me. The young flight attendant returned quickly, a pair of slippers in hand. She crouched down beside me. And as she did, she whispered. Don't trust anyone. My body went rigid. Those words. The exact same words Ashley had said the night before she died. I stared at her, heart thudding. Who are you? She didn't flinch. Just smiled softly and replied. Call me Bonnie, sir. The plane took off. 30 minutes in, 2 tall Russian men stood up from their seats. I watched as Evelyn and another attendant followed them to the front. I didn't wait. I stood as well and gave Bonnie a subtle nod. She caught on instantly. Sir, this way to the restroom, she said calmly. We ducked into the farthest lavatory, the one tucked behind the galley, and locked the door behind us. She moved fast, pulled me into an embrace, but her real intention was clear. I felt her hand slip something into the inside pocket of my blazer. Sir, she whispered, let me take care of. Before she could finish, the door burst open. 3 men in black suits stood in the doorway. Stone-faced. Silent. Dangerous. Mr. Scott, one of them said flatly, you'll need to come with us. They restrained me quickly and efficiently. No fuss. No struggle. No scene. I was trapped. Evelyn reported you, one of them explained coldly. Said you were carrying surveillance equipment. They weren't wrong. They found the mic hidden in my tie. The microcamera in my belt buckle. The recording device sewn into my jacket collar. By the time we landed, I wasn't allowed to walk out like a passenger. They slipped a black hood over my head and moved me through the airport like cargo. When the hood finally came off, I was in some kind of villa, luxurious but eerily quiet, like a place where no one ever left without permission. And that's where I saw him. The Russian man. The one Ashley had kissed outside the airport. The one she called baby as he carried her to the car. He wasn't just some lover. He was Neil, the owner of the airline. The real one in control. And there, kneeling at his feet like obedient pets, were Bonnie and Evelyn. Their eyes didn't meet mine. But mine burned into them with icy fury. I had no more illusions left. Neil took a slow drag from his cigar, a smirk curling at the corners of his mouth. Mr. Scott, why are you so obsessed with us? He asked lazily. Wouldn't it be better to just enjoy life? I stared back at him, expressionless. What's that supposed to mean? I don't follow. He shrugged. No worries. I'll make sure you lose, fair and square. His eyes drifted to the flash drive sitting on the coffee table. Let's see what our friend here has been recording. He nodded, and someone hit play. The footage that filled the screen wasn't from the plane. It was a wild, explicit video of Evelyn and me, taken in a hotel room. Neil's eyes narrowed. Someone want to explain what the hell this is? Evelyn's face drained of color. Mr. Neil, I had no idea. But he's been acting strange these past few days. He was clearly digging into us, so I. The sound of the slap was sharp and sudden. Neil's hand struck her across the face, sending her tumbling to the floor. Blood glistened at the corner of her mouth. She glared up at me from the ground, her eyes burning with fury and disbelief. When did you switch the video? I didn't, I said calmly. Evelyn, don't you understand how I felt about you? If looks could kill, I'd have been dead already. Her hatred radiated off her in waves. You were only using me. You wanted to know how Ashley died. That's the only reason you came back. I gave her a smile, sharp, cruel, final. No. I came to you for proof she cheated. But now she's dead. Everything she owned. It's mine. Why the hell would I bother investigating you anymore? You're lying. You must be. Before she could finish, Neil gestured, and two men stepped forward without a word. They dragged her out, kicking and screaming. I'm sorry for the trouble, Mr. Scott, Neil said with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. But, my cover's blown. You're not leaving here. What do you want? I asked, my voice tight. Neil chuckled and gave a slow shake of his head. If you hand over all your assets, I'll tell you everything. And I promise, you'll be taken care of. Fine, I said flatly. You've got a deal. I tossed a bank card onto the table. That's everything I've got. He picked it up, typed something into his laptop, then gave an approving nod. Well now, Mr. Scott, honest men are hard to come by. I respect that. I really do. Then he told me everything. The airline existed for one reason, money. Neil had dirt on the flight attendants. Every last one of them. With threats and promises, he coerced them into doing business mid-flight. Anyone who disobeyed, anyone who even thought about exposing the company, never made it off the plane alive. Ashley had been different. She hadn't been a risk. Not until I asked Evelyn to dig into her. That single request triggered a chain reaction. The company couldn't afford loose ends. So they had her killed. On the plane. The blood drained from my face as the truth hit me like a freight train. I was the reason she died. If I hadn't asked questions, if I had just left it alone, Ashley would still be alive. And then Neil said it. Well, that's the end of the line for you, Scott. Before I could react, a voice rang out behind him. As soon as she finished her words, Bonnie controlled Neil from behind. You're under arrest. The next moment, a group of police rushed into the villa, raised their guns, and shouted orders. Within seconds, Neil and his bodyguards were surrounded. Bonnie was with Interpol. Ashley had been her informant, brave, committed, and willing to risk everything to help bring Neil's transnational crimes to light. She'd taken a job at the airline, knowing exactly what she was stepping into. But then I came along, and everything spiraled off course. After Ashley died, Bonnie stepped in to take her place. The moment she saw me, she tried to warn me. That was in the bathroom, when she slipped the flash drive into my pocket. And I gave her my spare listening device in return. We didn't need many words. We both knew what we were doing. Just now, I'd steered Neil straight into a confession. Every damning word had been recorded. It was over. I found myself standing at Ashley's grave again. Grief, guilt, and a strange kind of peace washed over me all at once, sharp, then quiet, then sharp again. I didn't hear Bonnie walk up behind me. She placed a single flower down beside mine. Somebody had to do it, she said softly. Right? 3 months later, Neil was sentenced to death. The entire airline was dismantled from the inside out. Every flight attendant who had been blackmailed or coerced was freed from the nightmare. It was over. And for the first time in a long time, I was ready to begin again.
I am Ashley, a flight attendant purser, a woman serving in the sky, and also, an undercover agent with a secret. I've always believed that flying is the best way to escape the world below. From the moment I boarded my first flight at 18, I was hooked, The rush of takeoff, the piercing altitude pressing against my eardrums, the way your heart races as the clouds swallow you whole. The world shrinks until it looks like a toy set, and everything that once felt heavy gets left behind on the ground. Flying, to me, meant freedom. It meant chasing dreams. It meant I didn't have to face the things I wasn't ready for. Becoming a flight attendant was my choice. My parents didn't approve. They worried it wasn't safe, said a girl drifting from city to city would never have a real home. But I held my ground. Along the way, I have also rejected many stable relationships. Then I met Scott. He was different, one of the rare men who didn't try to clip my wings. You can fly as long as you want, he told me. I'll be here when you land. Back then, I believed I'd found the one. The man who'd be my soft place to fall when the sky got too high, too cold, too far away. We went from lovers to husband and wife, and it wasn't always easy. He was always working. I was always gone. Most weeks we saw each other 2 days, maybe less. Sometimes he'd smile through his exhaustion and ask, "Do you love the sky more than me?" I'd always laugh and say, "I love you just as much as the sky." But he never knew. The moment I truly started to fear flying was the moment I met Neil. Neil is our newest investor in the company. Polished on the outside, sure, but underneath the designer suits and warm smiles, he was a predator in cashmere. The first time he approached me was after a flight, in the lounge reserved for first-class crew. He slid a cup of coffee across the table and said, "Ashley, you've got the looks. Clean, elegant. You're exactly the kind of woman we need." I froze. He didn't strike me as the type to make casual passes. But then he said something I'll never forget. "If you're willing to join the company's new project, your monthly income could increase tenfold." I didn't understand at first. He kept smiling as he explained. They were running a private operation, a covert service for select first-class passengers. If a customer ordered an iced Americano, it wasn't about the coffee. It was a code, a signal. Customers who order this drink are purchasing the full companionship of a flight attendant, not just smiles and service during the flight, but all needs. I refused immediately. He wasn't angry, he just smiled and said, "Don't be so quick to say no. Think it over before answering me." Then he threw a USB flash drive into my hand. That night in the hotel, I opened it, then closed it, then opened it again. Inside were files, folders organized by name, by date, photos of my family, images from my reckless teenage years I didn't even remember taking, clips from a few drunken college nights that should have disappeared into the fog of time. But they hadn't. They'd been collected, cataloged, weaponized. I went to the police. Nothing came of it. I tried to resign. Anonymous threats followed. I confided in a few colleagues. The looks they gave me said it all. They weren't ignorant. They were terrified. That period nearly broke me. There were nights I seriously thought about opening the emergency door mid-flight and just ending it. Then Bonnie showed up. Neil had assigned her to our crew. New hire, quiet, reserved, with eyes like winter glass. At first, I didn't like her. She didn't speak unless spoken to. She didn't smile. Then one day, she slipped a folded post-it into my palm. It read, "I'm not one of them. You can trust me." She was Interpol, embedded deep in Neil's operation, investigating a global trafficking network that stretched far beyond what I had imagined. In that moment, I finally had something I hadn't felt in weeks. Have a direction. We formed a quiet alliance. I pretended to cooperate, even accepted Neil's promotion to chief flight attendant. On the surface, I became one of the leaders of the project. Behind the scenes, I was feeding Bonnie every detail I could gather. Every flight felt like a game of Russian roulette. I'd never been so aware of how thin the thread was between life and death. But there was no turning back. Not after what I'd seen. Not after watching so many of my sisters Neil break, get demoted, or worse, just disappear. I wasn't a saint. I wasn't a hero. I just couldn't keep pretending I didn't see it. But fate has a twisted sense of timing. Scott showed up on that flight. The one that mattered most. He wore a ball cap, a mask, tried to keep a low profile. But I saw him the second he stepped on board. My heart nearly stopped. Then he did the unthinkable. He ordered an iced Americano. He didn't know. Of course he didn't know. He thought he was just asking for a drink. But that cup, that stupid cup, put him in the crosshairs of something he couldn't possibly understand. I tried to pretend I didn't recognize him. I kept it professional, cold, distant. But he kept looking at me like he was trying to solve a puzzle. Like he knew something was wrong. And then it got worse. He heard noises in the lavatory, saw me walk out, then saw the Russian client follow behind me. He just stood there, frozen, color draining from his face. I wanted to run to him, grab his hand and say, "It's not what it looks like." But I couldn't. I had to protect him, even if it meant destroying him first. Later, he turned Evelyn down flat, and then came to me, asking for an iced Americano. He wasn't thirsty. He was testing me. And in his own quiet way, he was telling me I know. For the first time, I saw how foolish he could be, and how heartbreakingly sincere. But what he didn't understand was that every step he took toward me pushed me deeper into danger. That night after landing, I staged a scene. I pretended to run into an old flame, wrapped my arms around the Russian client, kissed him like I meant it, and got into his car. Scott saw everything. He was standing just far enough away, but close enough to catch every detail. I thought he'd snap. Thought he'd confront me, scream, walk away and never look back. But he didn't. Instead, he followed me, tried to charm the truth out of Evelyn, started digging on his own. Maybe he thought he was being clever. Maybe he believed he could save me. What he didn't know was that Neil was watching his every move. And I panicked. I had to get him out of the game, off the board, before he got himself killed. Even if he ended up hating me for it, even if he thought I betrayed him. That pain was still better than watching him go down with the rest of us. So I got drunk. Deliberately. Let my guard down just enough to whisper one thing. Don't trust Evelyn. Don't trust anyone. Then I signed the divorce papers. Gave up everything. Money, property, all of it. The next day, I picked up a shift for a colleague. One last flight. One final run. Finish the job. Disappear. Erase myself from the sky. But fate had one more cruel twist to deliver. Neil had placed someone on that flight. He knew I was slipping. Suspected I'd crossed a line I couldn't uncross. Midair, I felt it. Something wrong in my body. My vision blurred. Pain shot through me. The last thing I remember was the blood soaking through my uniform, and my hands, shaking, reaching for something, someone. The report said I died from severe hemorrhaging caused by internal trauma. How poetic. A chief flight attendant. A covert informant. Dead with no statement, no confession. No goodbye. But I knew Scott would go looking. He'd dig for the truth. He'd curse my name and grieve at the same time. And that was okay. Because he was alive. He was free. And he was finally out of the storm. Bonnie finished what I started. Neil was arrested. The airline was shut down. The flight attendants were freed. And me. I finally left the sky behind for good. Scott, my dear Scott. If you're reading this, it means Bonnie kept her promise. It means she left this behind for you. And it means I'm gone. You'll never know how deeply I loved you. You'll never know that on every single flight, the only thing playing on repeat in my headphones was that voice memo you once sent me. Fly high. I'll be waiting with hot cocoa when you get back. Well, I flew even higher this time. So high you can't reach me anymore. But I never truly left. I've been up here, in the clouds, watching you. Always. If there's such a thing as another life, I hope we meet on the ground next time. Don't fly so high, Scott. It gets too lonely up here. You already gave me the whole world. Do you remember that trip to Portland? The first time I ever saw snow-covered mountains. The first time I ever fell asleep in someone's arms and felt safe. That night, I made a silent promise. No matter how high I flew, I'd always come back to you. But now, maybe I can only keep that promise in your dreams. You once told me, if you ever stop flying, I'll open a coffee shop. You can sit by the window all day and wait for me to come home. Lately, I keep thinking about that. If we had done it, really done it, if we'd chosen the simple life, the quiet one, maybe none of this would have happened. Maybe I'd still be holding your hand. But life doesn't come with a rewind button. There's no what if. We both made the best choices we could. We both fought the best we knew how. So live for me, Scott. Live the life I didn't get to start. And when you do, know that I'll still be flying. Right there. In your heart.